What's up, everybody? This is the Sports League Podcast, back for another week. I'm your host, Alex Leak. We got the co-host, Amanda, back on as always. And Amanda, a crazy week of football, the trade deadline, all kinds of stuff to talk about this week.
Oh, I'm excited. We had some great upsets that you and I both picked. I mean, our picks were
Yeah.
both great for the week. And some interesting trades. Definitely some intriguing movement happening this week.
So we talked about the Bills and the Bucks on Thursday night, or yeah, last Thursday on Friday night. We talked about it. The Bills sign running back Leonard Fournette and trade for corner Rasul Douglas from your Packers. Do you like these moves for the Bills? And they're contenders, so maybe these moves help. I really like the Leonard Fournette trade or sign.
Well, I think he's one of the players that people know about more, but I think Rasul Douglas is great. I just think he's been
Yeah,
underutilized and we haven't like when you're a shitty team, you're not using your best players. So I think it was a great trade. Obviously, the Packers are in a rebuilding phase, so it kind of sucks when players who are really productive leave. But he's one of those players that is quietly productive week after week, very reliable. So I think both of the signings are going to be great for the Bills.
yeah. Quietly productive is very accurate. I didn't know that Rasul Douglas has had 10 interceptions since 2021. So very productive. And it fills a need because they lost Tre'Davious White for the season. So he can fill in as a starter. And if he can take the ball away, that's huge.
Yeah, I think it's a great pickup for them. It's one of those situations where they've had the hole, and obviously it's a player I didn't want to see leave Green Bay, but at least he's
Yeah.
on my, backup team.
And then Leonard Fournette, he's got the nickname of Playoff Lenny. We saw how productive he was in Tampa Bay when the Bucks won the championship and in the playoffs with Tom Brady and that Tampa Bay team. So we'll see how much gas he has left in the tank. But the Bills, one of their biggest needs has been running back, and I feel like he can be very impactful, especially come December and January.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that. I think they're gonna probably make a postseason run and they're gonna need those pieces to do it.
Yeah, so excellent job by the Bills of getting better, and not just staying with what they got. Let's go to the games on Sunday. The 3-4 Rams at the 4-2 Cowboys. Um, yeah, interesting game. Did we both take the Cowboys here?
Yeah, we both picked the Cowboys on this one for good reason. I mean, the
Yeah.
Cowboys just came off a bye week. They had been dominant in their past two home games. They had won those home games by a combined score of 78-3. Like, those were my reasons for picking them. And then before coming into this game, I said on our last episode, Matt Stafford had taken 11 sacks and had just three touchdown passes in their losses. And I was concerned about that Dallas defense getting to him. And yeah, I mean, we were both dead right about this one.
Yeah, I mean 33-3 in the first half. The Cowboys were just kicking their ass. They win 43-20. And quietly, I don't know if a lot of people know the Cowboys, their 11th straight home win. So I think that just puts a glaring emphasis on Cowboys. You need to find a way to win that division and get a home playoff game, right? Don't you agree with that?
Oh, I agree, but I think they're coming into stride at the right time. I mean, I I am, eternally a Cowboys hater, a Cowboys fan hater. I think they just run their mouths too much. And the second they win a game in the first 3 weeks, or they have, a winning record in the first couple of weeks of the season, they tend to immediately assume Super Bowl. But I think they really have a team that can be a contender this year. I mean, Dak had three first half touchdown passes. He had eight different pass catchers. I mean, the O-line was a bit shaky. He did take a couple hits there. But they play the Eagles next, and I'm going to be really intrigued about how that game's going to go down.
Yeah, I agree. One thing I didn't like though is that the trade line just came and went, and we saw a lot of contenders make moves at the deadline. The Cowboys were not one of them. And I would have loved to see the Cowboys be aggressive and try and trade for a veteran wide receiver to go with CD Lamb. I know they have Brandon Cooks and Michael Gallup, but they could use another guy. You can always use more weapons, and they didn't do anything, and that kind of frustrated me, you know?
That's one of those situations where we only see what did or didn't happen. We don't know how much effort they were putting into trying to get people behind the scenes.
Yeah,
So I mean, maybe they made some offers, but I mean, if CeeDee Lamb gets injured, they're kind of screwed in offense. Like they have him and Dak Prescott have been over 80% completions between the two of them. Like their connection is great, but that's one player, like if he gets injured, it's gonna be a rough road.
yeah, I agree 100%. The Rams fall to 3-5, third place in the NFC West, and like I anticipated coming into the season, I don't think the Rams are a playoff team, and we're starting to see it. You know, they're not very good. They have talent, but they're just not going to win enough to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I mean, and Matt Stafford is currently injured, maybe missing time, maybe not. He's got
Yeah,
that thumb injury. Brett Ripien is not a starting quarterback. He was 5 for 10 of his passes, 42 yards. I mean, they've struggled without him last
yeah.
season. We've seen how that went, and this is not going to be the backup quarterback to kind of tide them over till he gets back if he does miss time.
No,
I,
I think this
who else do they
is
have? Stetson Bennett?
yeah, I think this is like a 6-win team this year at best,
Yeah,
probably. You know.
agreed. Aaron Donald had a good game though.
Yeah,
So we'll give him some props for that.
yeah, absolutely. He's still a monster. Let's talk about your Packers against the Vikings. I talked you into the Packers, picking the Packers. I picked Green Bay as well, trying to
See, this,
snap
this
a
is why I should
three-game
trust my gut and
lead.
not listen to you.
And I didn't think it was going to be like this, though. They're down 24 to 3. They lose 24 to 10. Um, what are your concerns right now about being a Packers fan? Because I know you had no expectations, and I was kind of viewed as a hater of picking the Packers to finish last in the division, but they're not doing very well right now, you know?
I mean, we lost our fourth in a row. We won 0 games in October. It was familiar. It was kind of what I expected coming into the game, but thought there might be, a little change up. I mean, that offense has gone 10 consecutive first half quarters without a touchdown.
Wow.
I mean, Love finished the day 24 of 41, 229 yards, one second half touchdown and an interception. I mean, 270 total yards of offense. Like the first 3 games of the season, it looked like Jordan Love was going to be the guy and we'd worked our shit out. But the issue is we don't address gaps in the offseason. And then our starters go down for any length of time and we have no one to fill in those holes. Like it's
Yeah.
one thing to blame it all on Jordan Love because he was underthrowing everyone all game. There were open receivers, but he doesn't have any receivers he has good chemistry with. There aren't any veteran receivers to kind of help elevate his game at all, and I think that's on management. But Love had a really shitty day, so not passing the blame off of him, but the season I'm not going to blame Jordan Love for.
Yeah, I think the blame is going to go all around. I think the GM management's going to get blamed. LaFleur's going to get blamed. Jordan Love's going to get blamed. And I think the goal has to be at its core just get more talent on the team and get some veterans on the team, right? It's way too young. What do you think about signing Rashawn Gary to a 4-year, 107 mil extension? Do you like that at least?
I mean, I love him. He's a great player, but it's just I saw the meme of the big league and the guy slaps that Flex Seal tape or whatever over it.
Yeah,
So like our season is just, the big league and then the itty bitty band-aid to solve the problem is the Gary contract extension, which it's good, but I think it's just a distraction right now. I mean, Love's fifth straight game throwing an interception. It's the longest streak by any Packers quarterback since Matt Flynn in 2013. So, it's tough to be a Packers fan right now, but again, I don't think we expected much this season.
yeah. Um, so, trying to be optimistic, but knowing that, it's an adjustment going from Hall of Fame quarterback play to a young guy that's unproven. I know the Vikings just beat you, but do you feel bad for them at all as they finally get back to 500? They're in the mix, feeling like they're getting back in the mix in the division and in the playoff hunt. and down goes Kirk Cousins with a torn Achilles for the rest of the season, and he might have been playing the best football of his career before that injury.
Oh, I think he absolutely was. I mean, he had a great day. He was 23 of 31, 274 yards, two touchdowns. He upped his league high touchdown pass total to 18 before the injury.
Yeah,
I feel bad for Minnesota fans because they had a taste of greatness there, but I think they had that last year and squandered it. So this year, I feel bad for Kirk Cousins. His contract is void after this season. He's going to be 36 coming into next season after a gnarly injury. I mean,
yeah,
it's one thing with Aaron Rodgers coming back from that injury because, four-time MVP, he's been to the Super Bowl, he's won a Super Bowl. So I think it's a bit different for Kirk Cousins. Like, yeah, they've seen glimpses of greatness from him, but he's not on the same level. But even before the injury, there were still rumors about whether or not they would, sign him back next season. It was kind of an open question, like, are they going to re-sign him for next season? Are they not? Are they going to wait and see how this season goes? So I feel bad for the guy because I mean he was playing top of the league right now, and then I mean he was doing it without Justin Jefferson too. He was 3-0 since
yeah,
Justin Jefferson went out.
yeah.
So I just feel really bad for Kirk Cousins.
Yeah, but I think that people are going to remember how well he was playing before he got hurt, and he's going to get paid somewhere. And Kevin O'Connell said recently that Kirk Cousins knows how I feel about him, and kind of made it sound like he wants to bring Kirk Cousins back next year if they can. So I think Kirk Cousins do the rehab, get healthy. He hasn't been injured a lot in his career, and I think he's going to get signed up by somebody, and maybe if not the Vikings, maybe like a contender, a better team around him. So I feel bad for him. I feel bad for the Vikings this season, but I think Cousins will be all right as long as he rehabs and can continue to play at the high level, you know?
Yeah, I think it'll also say a lot about whether or not they're going to try to get him back after this season, depending on how Jaron Hall plays going forward, or whoever they bring in if they don't think Hall's ready for the rest of the season.
Well, and they did trade with the Arizona Cardinals for quarterback Josh Dobbs. He's played well, better than we expected, but he's only got a record of 1-9 as a starter. Do you like this trade for Minnesota?
I do not. I I mean, on paper he looks okay in some games, but if you break down his, I mean, stats this game. So he was 4 for 7 passes for 28 yards and two interceptions.
Yeah,
Like
there was a turnovers. Yeah,
I just don't see him as a starter, which is why I mentioned Jaron Hall, because I feel like we don't know enough about him in the NFL to know if he can be their starter, but I don't think Dobbs is going to do much more there than he was doing for Arizona, who are 1-6.
yeah,
I mean,
absolutely.
he struggled with accuracy. He was making poor decisions. I mean, granted, the whole team in Arizona has a lot of holes in offense, but he was definitely not helping him out. He fumbled for his fifth straight game in a row, threw 5 picks in
Wow.
his last 4 games. I mean, come on. That's not a
Yeah,
starting quarterback.
yeah, and I think if we're being realistic about the Vikings, I mean, you're not going to bring in anyone that's going to be playing at Kirk Cousins' level. And even then, they were barely 500. So I don't think this is a playoff type roster in Minnesota. They could have been more aggressive and traded for someone like Ryan Tannehill or Trey Lance or Kyler Murray or someone like that. But they decided not to. They bring in Dobbs, who can kind of keep them afloat, but I think they're going to be an under 500 team this year, and the roster is just not good enough, right?
Agreed. And I mean, they just scored their first rushing touchdown of the season. They were the only team who
Yeah,
hadn't scored one yet. Um, Generally, when the starting quarterback goes down, they rely on the run game.
yeah,
They tried to run the ball this weekend, but they only managed 50 yards on 19 carries.
yeah.
So that's,
30
I mean, very
ranked
concerning
31st.
considering they don't have anyone to throw the ball right now.
Yeah, exactly, and they're ranked 31st in the league in rushing this year. So
Yeah.
that goes back to my point about Dalvin Cook. I know he's not having the production this year, in New York, but I thought it was a very dumb decision to get rid of Dalvin Cook in Minnesota. And I think that he would be much more productive if he was still there, you know?
Yeah, especially going forward post injury. Agreed.
Yeah, 100%. Um, let's talk Falcons Titans. Ryan Tannehill out, rookie Will Levis making his first career start. What were your thoughts going into this game and with the result?
So, I mean, Atlanta, we've had questions about Desmond Ritter for a while. I mean, Taylor Heineke stepped in this game. He cleared concussion testing. Desmond Ritter did, but I mean, they're back and forth. Um, it's just, I mean, if Heineke can provide stability, that's great. He was 12 of
Hmm.
24 for 175 yards and a touchdown. Ritter loves turnovers. Ritter loves getting knocked down. But I just don't think either one of them are going to be the answer. Um, so I think
Yeah,
Atlanta has a lot of holes here. But Will Levis was great. I mean, you and I had talked about him in the offseason. There were a lot of memes going around about
mhm.
him, but he really showed up and played really well.
Yeah. The happiest guy on the team just to have Will Levis playing quarterback is DeAndre Hopkins. They seem to have immediate chemistry. D Hop with where's his stat line here? Four catches for 128 yards and three touchdowns. I mean, him and Will Levis were firing on all cylinders. Will Levis, four touchdowns, no turnovers in his
Hmm.
NFL debut. That's an incredible start to his season. Um, so the Titans are have to be optimistic about that, and we'll start him going forward. For Atlanta, yeah, we've been saying for a while that Desmond Ritter's not it. He's too turnover prone. He's too inconsistent, and the offense was so bad. They were trailing 14-3 at halftime. They make the switch, whether it's by injury or performance. I mean, you could say injury to protect Ritter, but his performance was awful. And Henneke came in and provided a spark and got Atlanta back into the game. So I think Henneke is definitely the better option going forward. He will start week 9 against the Vikings. So if he plays well, it's an opportunity for the Falcons to get another win. Um, what they're 4-4. So if they can get a win against the Vikings, get to 5-4, they're right there in the mix in that division. I think it's absolutely the right decision to go with Henneke from here on out.
Oh, I absolutely agree with you. But I don't think either one of those options are going to be a postseason contender in the quarterback position.
Yeah.
But I mean, I don't think the team is going to be a postseason contender.
No, I don't think anyone in that division will be like whoever wins that division, it'll be like cool. You have a home playoff game, and
And you're done.
I'm gonna pick the road team to win that playoff game. So
Yeah, agreed. Um, I just wanted to mention this about Will Levis. I thought he looked very, very comfortable. He was
yeah,
using pump fakes. He was, finding open lanes. He was smooth. He didn't look like he felt any pressure about being on the big stage at all. And he's playing against the NFL's number 3 defense.
yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, it was the Titans' highest scoring game so far this season. So you know what? Good for him. He's the
yeah.
second player since 1970 with 4 touchdown passes in their first game. The other one was Marcus Mariota in 2015 for the Titans.
Wow.
So good for
Yeah,
him.
yeah. I'll be interested. I'll be following along to see if he can keep up that play. I don't know that he's going to be that good, but if he continues to play that well, then he'll prove me wrong. Like I was a hater in the draft. When he was third string behind Malik Willis, I was like, I think he's kind of a waste of a draft pick. But if he continues to play at a high level, I'll absolutely start giving him some credit and an incredible debut for the Falcons. Grady Jarrett, one of their best D linemen, suffers a torn ACL out for the season, so a huge loss there. But they do trade with the Eagles for Contavious Street, so he'll fill in on that position and be a starter. So at least it sucks to lose Grady Jarrett, but a good move to replace him right away.
Yeah, they at least made some moves to fill the holes in the trade deadline timeline. We've seen a
Yeah,
lot of teams with players who have left over the past couple of weeks with injuries who didn't do anything before the trade deadline. So I'm glad to see some teams are at least addressing those issues and taking advantage of that.
yeah, 100%.
All right, so
Um,
talk to me. We both picked the next game correctly. We had New Orleans coming into Indianapolis. They were both 3-4. New Orleans won 38-27. How did you feel about that pick being correct?
well, so watching the game, the Colts get out to a 17-7 lead, and I was nervous even making the pick, right? Because Minshew had struggled, so that was why I made the pick. But the Saints had too. The
Hmm.
Saints have been so inconsistent of late. But I was very happy to see the Saints offense get going against a decent defense in Indy, and Derek Carr play well. And Alvin Kamara had a good game. Rashid Shaheed had a really good game. Um, and
Taysom
you
Hill did
know,
too.
Taysom Hill, yeah. So it's nice to see, the Saints, who are my preseason pick to win that division. Nice to see them play well and put up 38 points, which they needed because they allowed 27.
Yeah.
So
I was
way
regretting
to,
our pick for a little bit there. I was like, damn, all
yeah,
right. I may have fucking picked this one wrong. I was a
yeah,
little concerned. But Derek Carr is one of those players. He has good days and he has bad days. And we've
yeah.
seen both out of him. He's one of my hot and cold team leaders here, where I don't know if they're going to have a good game or a bad game. But I mean, 19 for 27 passes, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns, no interceptions, 133.3 passer rating. He played
Yeah.
well, accurate. He looked poised. He looked relaxed. That beautiful 51-yard throw to Rashid Shaheed, stunning.
Hmm.
He
Yeah.
had a game, man. It was beautiful though.
Yeah, he's starting to become more and more of a name. Like people need to start recognizing Rashid Shaheed. He's a baller. He can make some big time plays. And Derek Carr, that's why I still believe in this team. Because of Derek Carr, because of Alvin Kamara, because of guys like Taysom Hill, that the Saints can figure it out. They get back to 500, which is a huge step in the right direction. And they're right in the mix in that division. And I still believe the Saints will figure it out enough to win the NFC South. We'll see if I'm right or not, but this is a big step towards that.
Yeah, what I was saying, I I agree with you absolutely. But one thing that was cool to watch in the game is Taysom Hill, did his thing. He made 2 pass attempts in the game. He completed one of them for a 44-yard gain,
Man,
as well as carrying 9 of his 12 touches for 63 yards and got 2 touchdowns. So, he is, the Swiss Army knife. He's so fun to watch. And I was kind of pissed when the Packers didn't try to retain him a bit harder there.
he's one of those wild cards that's kind of hard to figure out. Like he can do everything. He can catch, he can run, he can
He
throw.
can throw.
Like he's decently accurate. When he runs, he doesn't fumble. When he catches, he doesn't drop passes. It's like, what can't this guy do? And he's pretty physical too. Like it's crazy.
Yeah, I love him. I'm glad he's with a coach who can kind of like work with him. I feel like he would be wasted on a lot of more of the like old school management systems.
Yeah.
So Green Bay would have wasted him because we refused to update any of our game plans. But he's doing his thing and he's so fun to watch. I love games where he's actually like getting the ball and throwing it and stuff because I would hate to be a defense facing him. Like you don't know what position he's going to be playing on the field.
Are you surprised that he never got an opportunity to be an NFL starter? Like a full opportunity. He's had a game or two where he started, but he's so talented, you would think that he could be a productive starter.
I mean, in the quarterback position, sure, but he's so unique and
Yeah,
versatile in receiving running back tight end kind of roles. I feel like
yeah,
he would almost be wasted in the quarterback
yeah,
position.
maybe so. It's crazy. Um, the Colts fall to 3-5. Gardner Minshew falls to 3-13. Record as a
Hmm.
starter since 2019. The turnovers are still an issue. I don't believe Anthony Richardson going down was a huge loss.
Hmm.
And some fans believe that Minshew can still get us to the playoffs. I disagree strongly. I'm not a Minshew guy. Do you agree with me that the Colts are? I think they're gonna suck. I think they're like a 6-win ceiling. I don't see playoffs.
No, I mean I think this is it for them. I mean, Minshew completed just over half of his passes. He was
Yeah,
56%. I mean, their defense isn't going to do enough to hold the opposing teams down. The offense is not clicking. Yeah, I think this is kind of the cap for them. I mean, Minshew Mania was a long time ago.
exactly. Yeah. So, how about Patriots Dolphins? Was actually a good game for a while, but the Dolphins pull away in the end. This game was closer than the score indicates at
Mhm.
31-17. This was a one-score game for the vast majority of it. Um,
Yeah, I
Tua,
thought you were going to be right. You said this game was going to be won by Miami by less than 9. We both agreed on the Miami pick. But yeah, the score doesn't like the game was so much closer than this. Like watching the game, I was nervous about our pick for a minute there. Um,
yeah,
but I mean, the Patriots defense did not have any answers for Jalen Waddle or Tyreek Hill. They hadn't
yeah.
allowed a wide receiver over 100 yards until this Sunday, and they let both of them get over
That's a
100
good stat.
yards.
Yeah. I'm still worried about Tua long term about the turnovers. He had two turnovers in this game, and he damn near could have had a third or a fourth. He makes some questionable decisions at times. Do you see that?
I do. It's interesting. It's almost like he's overthinking things or he's seeing how the play is supposed to go in his head. And when there's any
Yeah,
type of variation on the field, he doesn't adjust for it right away.
yeah. And I
It's like
think that
those kids who learned how to read music by ear versus the kids who learned how to like read it on paper. Like he's still hearing the song in his head. He's not reading what's happening in front of him.
yeah, like his stats are good. He's got Jalen Waddle, Tyreek, those running backs. Where like if he just checks it down, gets the ball in those weapons' hands, and then they break tackles and go for a touchdown, the stats look great and all that. But especially later in the season, come December and January, I'm gonna have my questions about Tua. This is why I don't have these Dolphins as true contenders in the AFC to go to a Super Bowl, right? They might win a playoff game, but that's about it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be interesting. I mean, Jalen Ramsey coming back definitely helped the Dolphins out there. I mean, it was about to be a tied game. It was
Yeah,
14-7. Patriots were about to tie it up, and then I mean, he grabbed it, took it 49 yards, and kind of flipped the script there. So I think he was the difference maker in this game. He definitely helped the offense out quite a bit there.
yeah,
But
that's that's
Tua
huge for their
makes me
defense to get
nervous.
Ramsey. Huh?
Tua makes me nervous.
Yeah, me too.
I mean,
Um,
he's at 1,014 yards on the season, which is the most receiving yards, or he's got Tyreek Hill at over 1,000 yards for the season, which is,
okay.
the most yards by a single player. But those other passes where he's thrown to Tyreek and he's gotten picked, like they're so good when they connect. And then you see Tua making mistakes where he's underthrowing him and just into double, triple coverage. And you're like, come on, dude, that would have been a touchdown right there. And obviously
Yeah,
their offense is scoring just fine, but some of the misses are just pretty bad.
yeah, and as much as like some of the things that he says makes me want to like Mike McDaniel. I just can't do it. I'm sorry. I just can't like him. He's too nerdy for me. He's too weird. He had a weird little tried to make a joke at the
Oh
press
God,
conference
yeah.
in Germany and no one
Did he
laughed.
say
Like,
like, "Oh, you probably thought I was gonna be bigger, or I'm bigger than you thought I was gonna be, huh?" And it was
yeah,
just dead silence.
it just feels forced, you know?
Yeah,
Like,
I think he might not be neurotypical, which you probably makes him very good at numbers and game planning and stuff, but a little
yeah.
awkward on the social interactions, which is fair. That's fine. But it's just funny because he just cannot read his audience when he's talking to people, and it's pretty funny.
Yeah, and look, who cares if you win, right? If he proves us wrong and goes and wins a Super Bowl with this Dolphins team, then everyone's going to give him all the respect he deserves. But I have a hard time rooting for him, and I kind of have a hard time rooting for this Dolphins team. So I think me and you agree it's go Buffalo Bills in the AFC East.
Yeah, and I mean, their offense has been fine, but there are a couple concerns for the Miami Dolphins right now. Their O-line, they're down 4 starters. Armstead, Wynn are on IR. Connor Williams was active, but he's not playing with a groin injury. Robert Hunt's out of the game with a hamstring injury. I mean, that O-line has been hit pretty hard. And we know
Yeah,
how Tua has been in his career with concussions. So if that O-line
yeah,
can't protect him, that's going to be a problem coming down the stretch. And then also their run game. The Dolphins only ran for 78 yards on 26 carries, 3 yards per carry, which is Miami's
wow.
second game in a row where they've been relatively unproductive on the ground.
Yeah, that's gonna be something to keep an eye on going forward. It'll help getting Devon Achane back off of IR. He should be coming back soon.
Yeah, I'm
But
excited for him to come back. We were really getting to know him and like him towards the beginning of the season.
yeah, but I mean, and then you got the Jets who are now above 500 with Aaron Rodgers potentially coming back. If they get Aaron Rodgers back and the Bills in that division, the Dolphins are the third best team in that division, in my opinion. Come late in the season, so I just can't pick them, right?
No, I agree with you for sure.
Let's talk about those Jets. Jets Giants, the Punt Fest battle in New York. How about that one?
So let's just have a quick shout out to my co-host, Mr. Alex Leak. He said it was going to be a close game and the Jets were going to win by 3, and that final score 13-10. So a little
Oh,
round of applause there for you. I don't even know if you remember saying that,
I
but
don't remember saying that, but I'll take it.
you called a 3-point Jets win and you got yourself a 3-point Jets win.
We knew it was going to be ugly, you
Oh
know?
God, we knew it. Yeah. I mean, it's all defense in this game. And it's funny too, because it's like, was it a great comeback for the Jets or did they just luck into it? Like they've been coming back this season. This was oh my God. They were embarrassing, I would say, for about
Yeah.
58, 59 minutes of the game. And then I mean, overtime, they shouldn't have won this game. Neither team should have won this game. It should have been a tie. Like it was just bad. But I was looking at the numbers. So the Giants had a 98% win probability with a minute and 26 seconds left in the last quarter of the game.
Wow.
98%. So, the
And
Jets pulled it off somehow. But
credit
it was,
credit to Zach Wilson though. He was clutch.
yeah, I've never seen Zach Wilson be clutch before, but
Yeah.
it reminded
Th-
me of Russell Wilson back in the day. Minute and a half
Yeah.
left. Yeah.
This was such a huge win, as ugly as it was. And we're gonna get lost in, the ugliness of the game and the punt fest and the defensive struggle. But as ugly as it was, this is such a big win for the Jets. The win over the Eagles, so improbable. You think about the win over the Bills week 1, so improbable. And then I know the Giants are bad and you got Danny DeVito or Tommy DeVito, whoever at quarterback,
They're not
but
related. I looked it up. They're not related.
but this is such a huge win to get above 500 and all you're doing is building that locker room, building that chemistry, building the belief in that building with Aaron Rodgers getting closer and closer to coming back, we have to keep an eye on this Jets team. Like, if they're believing and they're playing good football and they get Aaron Rodgers back, this might be the team that could get hot at the right time and go on a Super Bowl run. I really could see it.
It would definitely be one of those stories that's made into a movie in a few years, for sure. If
Yeah,
it happened.
it's
But I
crazy.
mean,
And I'm so happy for Zach Wilson, right? He continues to get it done.
yeah, I was impressed. I've been not a doubter per se, but I mean, definitely Aaron Rodgers is the better quarterback there. So, you
Yeah,
know, Zach Wilson kind of got pushed to the side, but he's definitely come through and proved for them. I mean, and that defense, I mean, they were 96% successful against the Giants on pass plays. That is
yeah.
that's the highest success rate in a game since 2016.
And
So I mean,
that,
random stat, but like we've liked that defense all season. I mean, but the punt fest, 15 punts between the two teams in the first half. That's the most since the NFL started collecting data in 1991. 24 total punts in the game, which
geez.
was more than the total points scored, which is pretty funny.
Punt
So
game,
it
man.
was a shit show, but it was entertaining. So there's that.
Yeah. in the rain, and then on top of it, the New York battle, right? The
Yeah.
fans are super into it. So just a fun day all around. One of those games that would have been fun to be at.
Oh yeah,
Um,
that would have been so fun to be at.
yeah. Really, to me, the biggest difference in this game, Greg Zerline hit two huge field goals, one to force overtime and one to win the game. Giants kicker Graham Gano, two huge misses. So
Hmm.
this game really, in my opinion, came down to the kickers, and the Jets had the better one.
Yeah, I think between that and then, so if he had made those kicks, obviously the score would have shown that. But also, if the Jets keep making these penalties when they're playing a team with a better offense than that, I mean, they
Yeah,
committed 8 penalties for 85 yards.
yeah, can't do that.
That, I mean, granted, it was their third straight win. They pulled it off, but there are some issues. That's not gonna work down the line. And then I've seen some interesting calls in this game
Yeah.
by Nathaniel Hackett that I did not like. Third down situations there. I mean, the Jets went for what, 2 for 15 on third downs. That's
Well,
heinous. Like, obviously, it was a punt fest, so we knew that by looking at the numbers. And luckily, the other team did the same thing. But you can't be doing that if you want to try to make a run for it.
yeah, yeah, they got to get that figured out. The Jets have plenty to clean up, but a win's a win, right? Just find a way to win. It doesn't matter if it's ugly or however you get it done, but definitely a lot to clean up, a lot to get better at. And we're going to see this team on prime time on Monday Night Football. The Jets are going to host the Chargers in week 9. That should be a very interesting game. I see the Chargers blowing it somehow, and the Jets keep on rolling.
Yeah, the Chargers would like to blow that one. I can sense that too. There's a lot of good matchups coming next week. I'm excited for our preview episode.
Oh
But
yeah, week
to shift
nine.
our attention over here,
Yeah,
the Giants only had 7 passing yards this week.
that's incredible.
It's incredibly shitty. They're the fifth fewest by any team since 1970.
Yeah, all those people talking about it's a passing league now. The Giants set the league back like 30, 40 years.
You try to do math over here? It was
Well, wait,
53 years
how
ago.
how what year did you say?
70. It was 53 years ago.
70. Yeah, 50 years. That's incredible.
Yeah,
Math
so that's
is a
pretty
nice
bad.
time too. So, um, Giants fall to 2-6, and they trade defensive tackle Leonard Williams to the Seahawks. Giants are just about packing up this season. Like Daniel Jones can't stay healthy. Even when he is, they're not winning football games. This game was there for the taking. The Giants should have won this game three, four, five different ways and couldn't get it done. If you can't win a game like that, and you fall to 2-6 when you really need a win, I think, it's about time to just wrap it up for the Giants. And what a fall off after making the playoffs and being so competitive last year to this shit show this year. This Giants team, uh, really rough year.
Yeah, I was kind of concerned about Graham Gano's job there after this
Yeah,
game.
yeah.
But
And
did you see the thing about how he's playing on a knee that he knows he needs surgery on, but he's trying to hold off on the surgery?
is that Graham Gano?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
So like it
mean,
makes sense that he's making missing kicks, but I mean, you get the surgery if you need it. Like it's not like
yeah,
you guys are, you know, an 8-win team right now. Like do
exactly.
what you got to do to get healthy.
Shut it down, right? You're two and
Yeah.
six. You're not making the playoffs. And if I like a player playing through injury and being tough, but if it's affecting your job and forcing you to make kicks, what's the point, right?
Yeah, there's something different about a quarterback playing with an injury. They're trying to, deal with like a knee injury. Like, yeah, we need surgery. We can hold off. It's like a cartilage thing, not a big deal. But a kicker, like you kind of need your knees, bro.
Yeah, 100%.
But now that we've
Um,
talked about your good picks this week, let's get into one of your bad ones. So we had Jacksonville 5-2 going into Pittsburgh 4-2. You picked Pittsburgh.
yeah.
How are you feeling after this game now that the Jacksonville Jaguars have won 5 straight?
Well, it's a win-win for me because uh, I I was worried about the Jags being kind of up and down earlier in the season, losing games they shouldn't have, not playing their best football at times. You know, they could have lost that game to the Saints, right?
Yeah.
But then I think they did lose to the Texans. But the Jags are hitting their stride, like you said, 5 straight wins. They get to 6-2. I love this Jags team. This is one of my favorite teams in the NFL. Trevor Lawrence is playing solid football, and this game could have been even uglier if the Jags didn't have, I believe, 2 turnovers, back-to-back turnovers in the red zone in the first
Mhm.
half. Like they were only up 6-0, and it easily could have been 20-0 by halftime. So they were keeping the Steelers in the game, and even then, by the end, they were able to pull away and win it. But uh, I was wrong on the Steelers, but I don't. It doesn't bother me. I love this Jags team. I love what they're doing, and this is
I
a
mean,
huge win in Pittsburgh.
yeah, but I think the injuries and the weather kind of affected the outcome of the game there. I mean, the field was slippery. They were sliding all over the place. So I mean, Minka Fitzpatrick went down with a hamstring injury in the first quarter for Pittsburgh. Kenny Pickett exited in the second quarter with an injury to his ribs. I mean, Mitch Trubisky had to come in, and we saw him throw 2 interceptions in the fourth quarter. So I mean, it felt like the Steelers were almost gonna win a couple times, but I think those injuries and those late interceptions were kind of game sealing there.
Well, I don't see Kenny Pickett as a huge loss. Like I don't see the value in Kenny Pickett. I really don't. I don't think there's a huge drop off between Pickett and Trubisky. Like what
I
did
mean,
Pickett do in the first half that really was anything to write home about, you know?
how many picks did he throw?
Yeah, but one of those picks by Trubisky was like a Hail Mary throw.
Yeah,
Like
that's true. We don't count that one at the end there, but
yeah.
yeah, you're right.
Um And Jackson, I mean, you know, Jacksonville did enough to get the win. And we talk all the time about Pittsburgh's defense with TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith and those dogs, Cameron Hayward and those guys. I'm just, the Steelers are about a 500 team and they fall to 4-3. I'm just so impressed by the Jags at 6-2.
Yeah, I've been pleasantly surprised by the Jags. I mean, ETN has been playing his heart out the last couple
Yep.
weeks.
Evan
Hello?
Ingram too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's been an interesting development over the season with them. And I do love me a wet, slippery game. I think it's hilarious. Because they have to like, those obvious play fakes, like they're not gonna work, dude. You're gonna slip and fall in your ass. So it's pretty funny to see how they change and like edit their game to deal with the weather. Like snowy games, super wet, rainy games. But
Yeah.
it definitely felt like Pittsburgh was going to come back a couple times. And I was looking at the stats at one point in the game. I think when I was looking at it, Jacksonville had like 80 yards more than Pittsburgh, but it looked like Pittsburgh was about to come back. And I was like, don't give it up with, I mean, come on, you're doing everything right except for trying to let them come back. But I mean, Evan Ingram had what, 10 catches, 88 yards?
Yeah.
But
He's
Travis Etienne became the first Jags player with 70 plus rushing yards and 70 plus receiving yards in any game since Maurice Jones-Drew did in week 13 of 2011.
yeah.
So he had a game,
ETN,
man.
yeah, ETN has been absolutely balling this year. And if the Jags can clean it up, right, they're still making mistakes
Oh,
that
so sloppy.
they're a young team. They're still figuring it out and still learning how good and dominant they can be. Um, I see the potential of this Jags team being one of the best teams in the entire league. Like potential to win a Super Bowl. I honestly believe that. Josh Allen's playing some of the best ball of his career. ETN, Trevor Lawrence is hitting his stride. Evan Ingram, if Calvin Ridley can get going, they got some good receivers as well outside of those guys. So I really like this Jags team. And last year, they were in that playoff game against the Chiefs, and they had that huge comeback in the playoffs against the Chargers. I really don't see any team that is a lot better than them. Like I really feel like the Jags can go into the playoffs, go up against the Bengals, the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, anybody, and have a shot to win. And that's so encouraging. And the Jags' future is very, very bright.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, they're 6-2 for the first time since '99. So, granted, that win was sloppy, and they haven't fully played a complete game yet. But after the bye week next week, they're getting 4 injured starters back. Wide
Yeah,
receiver Zay Jones, left guard Walker Little, cornerback Tyson Campbell, and safety Andre Cisco. They're all going to be back. They're going to be at full strength. So yeah, I think the future is bright for them as well.
yeah, I'm loving it. Um, and we'll get to see the Steelers on Thursday night. It sounds like Kenny Pickett's going to play, so we'll see if they can bounce back. You know, the Steelers probably feel like they let one slip through their fingers, and that AFC North is so competitive. They need all the wins they can get.
I absolutely agree with you. So we've, talked about one of your picks that you got wrong. Let's keep it going. So you I agreed with you that this was going to be a close game. So we had Philly coming in 6-1 at the Commanders, who are 3-4. I mean, their last game, what, 2 weeks ago, was an overtime 34-31 win for Philadelphia. And the Commanders put up 31 again against that Philadelphia defense, but uh the Eagles put up 38. So, I mean, it was a close game. We were both right about
Yeah,
that, but I just, picked the Eagles correctly, unlike you.
yeah.
Um, but
the
no,
the
like you and I were
Eagles,
pretty evenly split on our games that were different. Like we both picked a couple upsets here. And I mean, we were right on one and wrong on the other. So, not talking shit there, but I agreed with you that the Commanders, if they had learned from how their last game went, they were real close to pulling off a win. So I agreed with you, but just had to switch up the pick, and I had faith in the Eagles here. I mean, but Jalen Hurts, 319 passing yards, 4 touchdowns.
yeah. And
I
how
mean,
about AJ Brown? Like
AJ
AJ
Brown.
Brown
Is
might be the
he
best receiver in football. Like
is
he's
he in the
unguardable.
MVP conversation yet?
He damn near should be. Like throw it up to him. It doesn't matter if it's double, triple coverage. Best bet is he's going to come down with the ball, and probably a one-handed
Oh,
spectacular catch while he's at it.
some of those catches were insane.
Yeah,
I mean, catch of the week kind of things, but like 3 times a game. It's crazy. I mean, 8 catches, 130 yards, 2 touchdowns. He's the first player in NFL history with 125 plus receiving yards in 6 straight games. I mean, that's a post-merger record that's been held by Calvin Johnson. Like,
yeah.
he's insane. If he is not in the MVP conversation, if he continues playing like this, I'm gonna riot because he needs to be.
He's an absolute monster. He's in the same conversation with, I mean, Calvin Johnson's very high praise, but he's reminded me with some of these catches of prime Julio Jones, and we remember how good he was in Atlanta.
Yeah, I mean,
So,
those passes that are like tightly contested situations where there's 3 or 4 people around him, but they somehow snag it and contain the ball and
yeah.
complete the catch. Like it's really fun to watch.
So, watching this game, the Commanders played well. It's a division rivalry. You know, I took a chance. It was definitely the Eagles are definitely the better team. And the Eagles allowed the Commanders to be in this game by 2 red zone fumbles early that took points off the board. If the Eagles don't commit those turnovers, a fumble by Hurts, a fumble by Gainwell, if those don't happen, the Eagles win by 2 scores. And it just shows how good this Eagles team really is.
Yeah, I mean, their defense played really well. But at
Yeah.
one point, I mean, in their last matchup, they were 24-24. Um, and they had the same tie at this point at the same point in the game. It was like the same minute of the game, 24-24. I mean, Howell looked good in both of these games, and I strongly dislike Sam Howell, but I mean, the Eagles are his team. Like he plays so well against them. But he kind of fell apart there at the end. I mean, he threw a couple really, really poor passes into traffic. I mean, Reed Blankenship snagged one that led to the Eagles go-ahead touchdown in the fourth quarter. And then he missed a connection with McLaurin a couple times in a row, actually turning it over on downs. But I mean, he looked good against them for most of the game, and then kind of failed under pressure at the end there. But he was only sacked 6 times. So
Yeah.
not bad
He's
for
a,
him.
he's a young quarterback, and we see ups and downs from young quarterbacks. We see it from Derek Carr and veteran quarterbacks with ups and downs and uh, differing play from week to week. So, um, Sam Howell, you see the potential, right? And I think this is Ron Rivera's last year as head coach. And maybe it'll be Eric Bieniemy takes over as head coach, or get an offensive guy in there that can try and get the most out of Sam Howell going forward. But the Commanders fall to 3-5, and it looks like they're punting on the season as they trade away two guys from that great D line that we like to talk about, Montez Sweat to the Bears and Chase Young to the 49ers, both on pace for career highs this year. So that D line just took a big step back, and they're sitting at 3-5. So I think it's going to end up being a rough season for the Commanders, and we'll see what direction they go this offseason to build around Sam Howell in that offense.
Yeah, I think that was kind of their announcement of how they felt about the rest of the season, letting those
Yeah,
two guys go. I think they were like, all right, well, this is it, guys. We're just gonna, go through the motions for the rest of the season because they were playmakers for them.
yeah, absolutely. Um, let's go to Texans Panthers battle of number one versus number two overall pick quarterbacks. Panthers with their new offensive play caller Thomas Brown looking to get their first win of the season, and the Texans take a 13-12 lead, looking like they were going to pull it off. They're the better team, but Carolina played very well and come down and kick the game-winning field goal as time expires to get their first win of the season. You have to be happy for the Panthers and Bryce Young to finally get on the board.
Yeah, that had to feel really good, especially, against who they were playing and, the first and second pick thing. Like that's got to be a solid rivalry going. And you and I both
Mm-hmm.
said, like, yeah, the Panthers are going to win in the next 3 weeks, but not this week. So oops.
Yeah,
Um,
you're wrong on
but
that
I
one.
mean, shout out to the Texans D line though, because
Yeah,
Young, I mean, shout out to both them and Bryce Young. I mean, he was sacked 6 times and he still was able to make some great plays for the team to pull off that first win. But that D line looked so good. They were playing
yeah.
really, really well. It was a great defensive game on both sides of the ball for the most part. But I mean, the Panthers pulled it off. They earned that win.
Yeah, I didn't pay a lot of attention to this game because it was low scoring, defensive battle against two teams that I think the Texans have been overachieving. I don't think they're a playoff team, and the Panthers clearly aren't. So, good for the Panthers to get a win. But I mean, you know, I like the Texans' future, but I don't think either of these teams are very good.
Yeah, I think CJ Stroud kind of came in and it took the NFL a few weeks to figure him out, but now they've lost 2 of their last 3 games. Both games were on the road, both by 2 points. So
Yeah,
I think they've sorted out his play because the first 4 games of the season he averaged 300 yards passing per game. The last 3 he's under 200. He's at 196 average.
yeah, you're starting to see the adjustments and the
Yep, they've
grind of
they've
the
sorted
NFL
him
season.
out. He came in hot,
Yeah,
and I think he came in a little too hot. Because that's not when you want to peak. You don't want to peak by week 4.
yeah, but I do want to give praise to D'Amico Ryans, a rookie head coach that it looks like he's a solid coach and he's trying to build something over there. So I like it.
Agreed. Not much else to say on this game. Adam Thielen had 8 receptions, 72 receiving yards, 6 consecutive game with 7 or more receptions, longest streak by any wide receiver in Panthers history. Um, Panthers had a really shitty red zone offense, but obviously, I mean, it was a 15 to
You,
13 game. So obviously no
yeah,
one was great in the red zone. But I mean,
you,
maybe the Panthers will go on a run here. They've got some momentum. They won their first game.
yeah. I mean,
We'll
they got
see.
some winnable games coming up. So But I mean, the Panthers go on a run and they finish 5-12 or 6-11. So
Yeah, that might be enough to win the division, honestly.
let's go to a much more fun game. We knew it was going to be hard hitting, hard fought. Browns at Seahawks, two 4-2 teams with playoff aspirations. The Seahawks jump out to a 14-0 lead. The Browns rally to take a 20-17. It looked like one of those games where the Seahawks were going to blow it and the Browns were going to steal it. And there's the same. I talked about Seahawks Bengals, and it looked very similar to that game. But this time, Geno Smith comes through with a game-winning touchdown pass to the rookie Jackson Smith and Jigba, and the Seahawks get a huge home win to get to 5-2. I'm very impressed with Seattle getting this win. How about you?
I am too. I mean, they came out 17 points right away, had the game going, and then the second half, they just quit playing offense. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it took to the last minute and 19 seconds, 52 yards. I mean, you mentioned this touchdown already, but it just seemed like Seattle just quit at halftime for some reason. That offense just there was nothing in the second half until that touchdown drive.
Well, and I'm going to give some credit to Jim Schwartz and that Browns defense, right? They're going to hold you down at some point, and I think maybe second half adjustments, maybe the Browns defense did something that had the Seahawks punting the ball, you know?
Yeah, well, I agree with that. I do think the Browns defense is great, but I mean, it's if you can put up 17 points in the first quarter of the game, what are you doing for the next two quarters? Like it's
Yeah.
one thing to start a game slow and start building momentum, but to come in hot and then just get shut down for most of three quarters, it was just a little weird to see. But I mean, switching to the other side of the ball, what the hell are the Browns doing on offense? Some of the play calls in that game, I mean, I feel so bad for that defense because they play their hearts out. And
Yeah.
I mean, they played very well. But PJ Walker, I mean, he found some targets. He, did attempt to make some plays there, but man, three turnovers. That poor, I just feel so bad for the Browns defense.
Well, but play to your strengths, right? Run the damn ball. Like, stop throwing it. Stop asking PJ Walker to do so much. You know that he's a backup and not a very good quarterback. Like he was in Chicago, he sucked in Chicago. Like run the damn ball, play to the strength of your defense. You, PJ Walker turned the ball over like that, you're not going to win, and they deserve to lose that game. I agree. The Browns defense is so good. It sucks for Cleveland that Deshaun Watson's been hurt like that this year because if they could just stay healthy and get better quarterback play, this is a playoff team and should be in the mix to win the division. But, you know, you're not going to do much with backup quarterback play, even with an elite defense.
Yeah, I mean, Kevin Stefanski giving PJ Walker the ball on what could have been a game-changing 3rd and 3 just before the 2-minute warning. He puts it in PJ Walker's hands and like, hey, you're prone to turnovers. Here, convert this. Just
Yeah.
let them run it. It's one of those stupid plays. Like that could have changed, like that could have been the outcome of the game. They could have scored there and, you convert to first down, you get your touchdown there. The game's pretty much done. You burn the clock out. But I mean, it was really tough to watch some of the bad decisions by that team this week.
Yeah, but I was rooting for Seattle, so I
Me
was I
too.
was loving it.
Me too. But like you got to kind of pull for the Browns. I mean, Miles Garrett, like those boys deserve to win. But I mean,
Yeah,
Miles Garrett only had 3 pressures on 34 pass rushes. And he
yeah,
had a rough week.
yeah, and they were probably doubling them and chipping them and all
Hmm.
that, which you should be doing anytime Miles Garrett's on the field. But for the Seahawks, I'm feeling very optimistic about this team. They improved to 5-2, and suddenly with the 49ers on a three-game losing streak, the Seahawks have taken over first place in the NFC West. Imagine if they can hold on to that and host a playoff game in Seattle. Seattle is as dangerous as anybody going into the playoffs, and they just boosted their defense. signing defensive end Frank Clark, who we know about his playoff production, and trading for defensive tackle Leonard Williams. Pete Carroll and John Schneider don't sleep. They're always trying to improve. It's incredible how good and dangerous this Seahawks team is turning out to be this year.
Yeah, I mean, Pete Carroll's always been a really like cerebral coach. He's always like plotting something. So
Yeah.
I'm excited to see what they're up to this season. Now, living back in the area, it's good for them as long as, the 12th man doesn't get too mouthy, which they're known to do. But
Yeah.
yeah, I will say that the defense for Seattle wasn't as elite as they have been called this year in this game. I mean, they
Hmm.
were good enough, obviously, but they still allowed almost 400 yards to the Browns with a backup quarterback. They got their 3 sacks, their 3 takeaways. That was good. But I mean, they were the best defense against the run for the first month of the season, and Cleveland rushed for 155 yards this week.
Yeah.
So they've definitely got some patches to tighten up, but I mean, they got the win, and that's what matters.
Well, and that's why you go trade for a D lineman like Leonard Williams, right? Maybe he helps shore up the run D.
Yeah, hopefully he fits in and slips right in there and
Yeah, and
fills
they
the gap
lost
for him.
they lost Uchenna and Wosu for I believe for the season with an injury. So you trade or you sign Frank Clark. That's a good replacement there. So I like what Seattle's doing. The Browns trade Donovan Peoples-Jones to the Lions. Donovan Peoples-Jones, a former Michigan Wolverine, born and raised in Detroit, so he returns home.
Yeah, it'll be a good spot for him, I think.
Yeah, only 8 catches on the season, so maybe he'll get some more opportunity in Detroit. But
A little
let's
bit more
talk about
action
my
for him.
my favorite game of the week, my call of the week, Chiefs at Broncos. How about that?
So we had talked about this, how I was hoping the Broncos would win. I mean, when they met up a month or 3 weeks ago, they kept the Chiefs 19-8. I mean, they still, still lost, but still they kept the Chiefs offense to 19 points. So you
Mhm.
picking Denver, I was not astounded by this, unlike the Miami game when you picked them. Um, this one I could see happening and I hoped it happened. But I mean, Denver won 24-9. It was great. And I had gone through this list on our last episode. So in this win, Denver broke Patrick Mahomes' 12-0 streak against the Broncos in his career, his
Yep.
16-0 streak on the road against AFC West teams, and his 25-0 streak in his career against teams that were multiple games under 500. He wrecked all of those this week.
Wow.
So shout out to the Broncos for bringing Patrick Mahomes back to earth.
On top of that, they snapped the Chiefs' 16-game winning streak against Denver. So a huge sigh of relief for Broncos fans, uh, who now let's talk about this. They're on a winning streak for the first time this year. And Denver's defense, who was much maligned early in the season for giving up 70 to Miami and giving up a bunch of points to the Bears, the last 3 games, Denver has allowed 19 points, 17 points, and now 9 points. So they're under 20 for 3 games in a row. Denver might be turning the corner here and playing some better football. And I'm just so happy for this win. And, you know, the Chiefs have taken playing with their food to a whole new level. Like the Chiefs are straight up just being sloppy with their food, leaving their food for the vultures to come pick at. The Chiefs are messing around and might get in trouble here. Like, I don't know about this Chiefs team right now.
I mean, they should be embarrassed. Coming into this game, Denver was ranked 31st in points allowed and 32nd, dead last, in yards allowed coming into this week.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chiefs had the sixth ranked scoring offense. They held them to just 3 field goals. Patrick Mahomes never had a shot. I mean, he had only one drive that was over 50 yards. He was at 59.2 passer rating, 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, a fumble. I mean, he was absolutely garbage in this game. So you know what? The Chiefs should be embarrassed by this. But I think it highlights some of the issues with their team. I mean, they come in and they roll bad non-competitive teams like we've seen them do year after year, and they'll pull off wins when they need to, but they play down to their competitors too much. And I don't think they were playing down in this game. I think they just expected Denver not to be competitive, and they were just not ready.
They need to be very careful about developing some bad habits here.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Mahomes, 0 touchdowns, 3 turnovers. And we talked about they made that trade for McCole Hardman. And he comes in and he muffs a punt. This was a one-score game until McCole Hardman muffs a punt, setting up the Broncos with first and goal. And the Broncos punch it in and go up 2 scores. And that was really what sealed the game, that turnover. Real quick, the Chiefs have 16 turnovers, which is second most in the NFL. And Mahomes has thrown 8 interceptions this year, second most in the NFL.
Hmm. Maybe we're seeing a different side of the Chiefs. Maybe we're gonna get a
Yeah,
break from them running things in the
yeah,
AFC.
and the AFC looks as dangerous as ever with the Ravens, the Bengals, the Jags. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I mean, Mahomes was held without a touchdown pass for the first time since December 5th of 2021, also against the Broncos. They
Yeah.
were 0 for 3 in the red zone. Um, Marquez Valdes-Scantling, who I have a love-hate, but mostly hate relationship with from when he was on the Packers. I mean, he had a fumble on the third play of the team's third drive, which looked like they had some momentum going. And I mean, it was, yeah, he did what he does. He'll make a couple amazing plays and then hand the ball over to the other team. Um,
Yeah. And
so yeah,
Mahomes has a Mahomes has a new favorite weapon too. You talk about Mahomes to Travis Kelce, talk about Mahomes to Tyreek Hill. Let's add Justin Simmons to Mahomes' favorite targets.
I mean, gotta take what's
Five,
available, right?
yeah, 5 interceptions.
God.
But I love it, man. I hate the Chiefs. I know I'm supposed to be unbiased and I cover the entire league. I can't stand the Chiefs. Travis Kelce, Patrick Mahomes, the refs. We've seen the refs bailing this team out so many times. You got the whole Travis Kelce bullshit that goes along with this team. Good. I hope this Chiefs team falls apart. I really do.
I mean, I know my husband will want to listen in on that portion, but before we get too high and mighty on the Broncos, let's, talk about their game a little bit.
Okay.
So we've seen Russell Wilson be amazing in Seattle. We've seen him be shitty in Denver. I don't think he proved much of anything in this game. Yes, he had 3 touchdown passes, but I think this game was more about the defense. I mean, he barely hit 100 yards by the start of the fourth quarter. He was sacked 4 times, fumbled twice. He's holding the ball so long. I don't know if he's worried about his receivers, but that man is holding onto the ball. I mean, 5, 6, 7 seconds sometimes. Um, so I mean, Jerry Jeudy got his first touchdown of the year, so good for him. But Russell doesn't seem to have that chemistry with his receivers yet, and he needs to get there if Denver wants to do anything. But also it was nice to see them finally use their runners. I mean, we've seen this team attempt to throw and fail week after week this season. But if they can figure out how to get that run game going like they did this week, I mean, so much better. Their record's going to improve greatly if they can keep that run game going and sort out the chemistry with those receivers.
Yeah, absolutely. They should lean on the run. They've got good running backs and Javante Williams and Jaleel McLaughlin and even Samaje Perine. Um, I I think Russell Wilson is starting to play a little better, and how I'll say it is this: that the Chiefs did turn the ball over and help the Broncos out a lot, and the Broncos defense is starting to play better. But what I liked was that they were finishing those drives with touchdowns. Right, that's something that we hadn't seen very consistently up until this point. Is that they would settle for field goals in the red zone a lot, and so I like that they were finishing those drives with touchdowns. And I think that I've mentioned this before about the chemistry that Russell Wilson had with Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. I still think he's figuring out with Cortland Sutton and Jerry Jeudy and those guys. But if you look at Russell Wilson's ranks, he's second in pass touchdown to interception ratio in the league. He's fourth in passing touchdowns. He's fourth in passer rating. I mean, I think the issues in Denver are more offense than Russell Wilson. I
Oh yeah,
could
I
be
know.
wrong.
I'm not saying it's just his fault. I'm just
Yeah,
saying that that's something that they need to address. I mean, the receivers have missed some really good catches throughout the season. I don't think it's just Russell's fault, but if he wants to get back to that, Super Bowl streak that he was in Seattle, there are a couple spots they need to look at there.
but
Um,
I agree with what you're saying too. He hangs onto the ball too much. Maybe that's guys not being open or what, but he does hang on the ball and get sacked or get fumble the ball, right?
I want to see
Um,
him more comfortable on his legs again.
yeah, use his legs more. Um, and he was part of the problem last year, 100%. And
Yeah.
he's been part of the problem at times, but I'm optimistic, and I feel like the Broncos are starting to turn the corner, and I hope that they continue to. I
Yeah.
we'll be keeping a close eye on this team for the rest of the year for sure.
Absolutely trending the right direction. Random
Yeah.
stat that's kind of funny to me. The last time the Broncos beat the Chiefs, week 2, 2015, Travis Kelce led the Chiefs with 58 receiving yards. He also led the Chiefs with 58 receiving yards this Sunday, in their loss to Denver. So defenses out there, if you want to beat the Chiefs, hold Travis Kelce to 58 yards. That's
Yeah, and we look at Kelsey go for 150 and 2 touchdowns most weeks, right? And we complain about it. So if you can hold the Kelsey to under 60 yards receiving, that's a recipe to win any day, right?
yeah. I mean, you take out their star tight end, you got yourself
Yeah,
a game.
absolutely. So let's talk Ravens Cardinals. I anticipated this being a blowout. The Ravens may have played with their food in this game. They get out to a 24-7 lead and win 31-24. The Ravens didn't play their best football. Gus Edwards with 3 rushing touchdowns. The defense kind of allowed Arizona to get back into the game, but a win's a win. You get to 6-2, and I love this Ravens team, and I think they're very much Super Bowl contenders.
Absolutely. I mean, Jackson just improved to 17-1 in his career against NFC teams. Highest win
Wow.
percentage versus NFC teams of any quarterback since 1970. I mean, he's playing great. He's a great quarterback. I think Arizona just kind of had a fluke game this week.
Yeah,
I, you know, the Ravens are allowed to kind of relax a little bit and take it easy when they're playing a poor opponent. So I think
yeah,
maybe they were just trying to take an extra bye week here and let the Cardinals kind of catch up a little bit. But I don't have any concerns about the Ravens after this game.
yeah. The Cardinals trade Josh Dobbs to the Vikings, so they're going to go ahead with rookie Clayton Tune in Week 9, and everyone's anticipating Kyler Murray coming back. We'll see on that because this team is now what 1-7, and
Yeah.
do you really want to put Kyler Murray out there on a really bad team and risk him getting hurt with that contract, right? Like, I wouldn't. I would just put out the rookie, see what he's got the rest of the year, and decide if we want to draft Caleb Williams and maybe trade Kyler Murray and get a bunch of trade value, or I don't know. But why risk Kyler Murray's health on a bad 1-win team, right?
Yeah, but I mean, if they were to go on a streak, also, why are you paying for that contract if you're not going to use the guy? Like, yeah, you don't want him to get a career-ending injury, but like, you paid this money for the kid. Like, get him out there at least half the games. Like, you need to like keep him. If you potentially end up having him again and not trading him, like, you want him to have chemistry with the team. You want him to be in sync with the coaches and have camaraderie. Like, don't just bench him for the rest of the season to protect him.
I don't know. I mean,
Also, if he's any type of like mentally sound quarterback, he's gonna want to play.
yeah, I I don't know. It's such a bad team though. Like,
I know, but I mean, let him play until he gets sacked a couple times each game. Like maybe the second sack, he goes out for the rest of the game or something. Like protect him to some extent, but don't let him get rusty. Then he's not worth anything. If he doesn't go on the field and play and show what he's still got, then know what they're trading for if he doesn't play for the rest of the season.
Yeah, but at the same time too, we've seen like non-contact major knee injuries before too, right? And he's coming off a major injury. What if a bad O line gets him sacked and gets him hurt? Like, you got to weigh all that. You got to weigh what you're saying, and you got to weigh the potential injury risk too. I'll be interested to see what the Cardinals do here.
I I have a feeling Kyler Murray is going to be throw a hissy fit if they tell him not to play.
Well, trade him. I would trade. I would have traded him right now before the deadline. Trade him.
I would have traded him to Minnesota.
Yeah, trade him
Get a quarterback
somewhere.
back in a couple weeks.
Yeah, and Minnesota would have been dangerous with him too.
I know. That was what I was thinking, but whatever.
Yeah.
All right. So speaking of me thinking of things and being correct, I picked Cincinnati 3-3, going into San Francisco at 5-2. I know we had some doubts about if the starting quarterbacks were going to start, but they both played.
hmm
And I know you picked the Niners, thinking that I don't know what you were thinking. I'm not going to quote you because I don't remember what you said. Not that it was a stupid pick. But Cincinnati pulled off a 31-17 win. And the reasons I picked the Bengals, the 49ers had just lost to Minnesota. So anyone who loses to Minnesota is sus in my book. They were working on a short week. The Bengals coming off a bye week, and healthy Joe Burrow is back, baby. So
Yeah.
I was ready for him to come back and play this game and win this game, and he did exactly what I wanted. How did you feel going into this game? I know you thought the Niners would win. I don't remember what your reasoning was for that. Um,
Well, I'll tell you, and hell of a call by you. Like, excellent pick. You've had some great picks this season, and this was an excellent one because no way in my mind did I see. I know the Bengals are starting to hit their stride, but no way in my mind were the 49ers a three loss in a row team. Like, my mind can't wrap my head around the fact that they're on a 3-game losing streak. This team is so fucking talented. How is this happening? The Bengals have played great. Joe Burrow played great. Jamar Chase played great. Their defense is solid. Joe Mixon played well. You're starting to see the Bengals team that went to 2 consecutive AFC championship games. Like, that's who they are. And Joe Burrow is one of the best quarterbacks in the entire league when healthy. And we saw that on Sunday. But my concern here is starting to be Brock Purdy, who's
mhm.
now turning the ball over uncharacteristically and costing his team. And they need to get healthy, and they need to start playing better, and their defense as well needs to start playing better. But 3 losses in a row, who and what is this 49er team right now? I don't understand it. But the Bengals are very good. This could be a potential Super Bowl matchup right here. And it just goes to show how good this Bengals team can be. So excellent call by you.
Yeah, I kind of had a feeling. I mean, I know we always talk about Joey Bosa and how good he is, defensive player of the year from last year. The Bengals rusher, Trey Hendrickson, has been
Yeah,
quietly, I mean, bumping up his numbers. He
yeah, he's a dog.
continued to, make a name for himself this week. Eighth sack of the season. I mean, he was Purdy's nightmare this week. He generated pressure on 36% of his snaps. I mean, he was so disruptive until he was sidelined with that ankle injury in the second quarter. His questionable return, he ended up coming back and continued to just, I mean, scare Purdy. But my issue with Purdy is over the past couple of weeks, I don't know if he had a hard hit 3 weeks ago and is kind of skittish, but he seems to be afraid to run it and make big plays, and like, because he was diving past potential tackles in the first few games, and the last couple of weeks he just looks skittish. So I don't know if he's got a minor injury or something, or he got hit hard and now he's got some PTSD, but he is not playing like he was the first few weeks of the season. So I'm kind of
Well,
losing faith in him. I mean, he played a good first half, but that second half was awful. 2 interceptions, lost a fumble. I mean, killed any chances they had of a comeback attempt.
this is an interesting conversation here too. Let's talk about this for a second. Brock Purdy, you saw the hit, right, when he got the concussion on that quarterback sneak.
Yep.
So he got that concussion, and a lot of people around the league did not expect him to play on Sunday.
Mm-hmm.
And they cleared him on Saturday so that he could play. And I think that they knew it was a big game and they wanted him out there. They didn't want to be on a 3 game losing streak. You see in this game, I think maybe it was late in the game, he takes a hit to the back of the head again. He hits his head on the field.
Yeah, I wasn't
Similarly,
watching the game when that happened. You messaged me about it and I couldn't find the replay for it, so I didn't get to see it. But as someone who was, skipping around to other games while this game was going on, it seems to have had an effect. And like the concussion seemed pretty mild last week, so I didn't really like take that into account too much. But maybe there's more going on here than they've publicized.
yeah, and if you remember what happened to Tua last year, remember when
Uh-huh.
he had back-to-back concussions and very similarly hit the back of his head on the field and then threw up the gang signs when he was severely concussed. And then he had that concussion against your Packers in
Yep.
a big game last year, and he threw 3 consecutive interceptions. So maybe you think about it, concussions, not having a clear head, affecting your judgment and turning the ball over, right? Maybe there's something going on here. Maybe Purdy shouldn't have played in this game, was still feeling it a little bit, turned the ball over a little bit, and it worried me seeing that hit to the back of the head. What they have a bye week coming up, right?
I think so.
So that can be huge. I think it's week 9 they have their bye. So
I need it.
that is huge for Brock Purdy to have a week off and hopefully get right. Because I don't like what I've seen from him the last 2 to 3 weeks, especially the last 2 weeks. And you've got a bye week, and guess who the 49ers are playing right out of the bye in week 10?
Uh,
At at the Jacksonville Jaguars.
okay, yeah, that'll do it.
The 49ers could easily be on a 4 game losing streak. So
I mean,
we need to
hopefully, yeah, they do have a bye week this week. Hopefully they get him rehabbed. I wonder if maybe that kind of pushed them to have him play this week. Like, oh, you can rest next week. We got, a full week off, bud. Like just go in there and end our losing streak and see if we can pull it off.
I would have loved to rest Brock Purdy and give him 2 weeks after that concussion. You know what I
I know
mean?
you said that last week, when they
Yeah.
were talking about whether or not he was going to start. I mean, I was excited that it was, both Joe Burrow and Brock Purdy playing each other, so we didn't get a half a game.
Yeah.
But I mean, if he's got an injury he needs to rest from, let the kid fucking rest.
Yeah. And so with right in the heart of a 3 game losing streak, the Niners need a spark. What better spark than to go trade for Chase fucking Young? They traded for Randy Gregory, which was already their D line was nasty. You had Randy Gregory, it's like, man, that D line is nasty. You had Chase Young. Holy shit. You got Nick Bosa and now you got Chase Young. My
Yeah,
God.
it was
Like,
completely unnecessary.
oh my God. Like that defense was scary before. I don't want to play. I worry about anybody that has to play that defense. Like, look out.
I mean, maybe they think Brock Purdy might need a couple weeks off, so they're just trying to make sure that the defense can win the game for him.
I mean, you could put Nathan Peterman out there right now and you'd probably win with that defense.
Yeah, pretty much.
And then you think about the Eagles D line, right? How nasty that is. So the NFC is it's crazy to see the rich get richer. These contenders this year, it's going to be incredible. The playoffs, I can't wait. You know.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun coming down the line. Just a quick shout out to Christian McCaffrey. Scored a touchdown in his 17th straight game. He is now tied with Hall of Famer Lenny Moore for the longest touchdown streak in NFL history.
Wow, love to see it. For those people that say running backs don't matter and don't pay running backs, you got a white running back that is just tearing the league apart. I love it with Christian McCaffrey.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've talked about some of the games you feel passionate about, I'd love to hear how you feel about your 2-5 Chicago Bears. at the Chargers, who are 2-4. The Chargers taking this one, as we predicted, 30-13. I mean, what are your thoughts on the Bears this season? Are they fully tanked at this point? Where are you at?
I mean, we fucking tanked last year. We went 3-14 last year. This is a garbage pile on fire. Like, I'm done with this team. I really am. Like, I don't know. I don't really have any answers. Fire Ryan Poles, fire the entire coaching staff, hire Jim Harbaugh. I'm gonna keep repeating that, but this team is trash. Like, not even competitive against the Chargers. Now you're pissing off Jalen Johnson. You're supposed to sign our best corner, right? Jalen Johnson to a long-term deal. We haven't been able to come to an agreement there. Big surprise. Ryan Poles couldn't come to an agreement with Roquan. Now he can't come to an agreement with Jalen. Jalen asking to be traded. We don't trade him at the deadline. It's a mess, man. Like, it's incompetence. I don't get the trade for Montez Sweat. Like, what does that accomplish when you're 2-6? Like, we're a 5 to 6 win team at best. I couldn't be more displeased and disgruntled with my team than I am right now. The past 2 seasons. Uh, Good win for the Chargers. You know, the Chargers, who were 2-4, and people were talking a lot of shit about them, get to 3-4 and are suddenly second place in the AFC West at 3-4. So maybe the Chargers can go on a roll and maybe get back to the playoffs, although I doubt it. But beating the Bears is no accomplishment, man. The Bears are just trash.
I mean, they did win last week.
Yeah,
So I
but
thought maybe they were gonna carry some of that momentum in, but they absolutely did not. So that was
I
clearly
mean,
a fluke game for them.
the Raiders are just about as much of a dumpster fire as the Bears are. So
Yeah, that's pretty fair. I mean, Justin Herbert looked, I mean, he's had one of the worst 3-game stretches of his career coming off that broken middle finger on his left
yeah,
hand. But he seems to be back. I mean, he didn't have a glove on this week. He looked pretty comfortable. He looked the most, you know, uh I don't know, whatever, comfortable on the field. He didn't look like he was dodging tackles as much this week as he has been, like more focused on the game, less about like, oh shit, I'm gonna get hit. He had 15 straight completions, finished with 294 yards, 3 touchdowns. Not that that's really an accomplishment against how Chicago played, but good for him. Not sure what else there is to say about this game.
I
Um,
could throw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns on the Bears defense.
you're such a hater. All right, fine. Let's just move to Monday Night Football. I don't know what else there is to say about that matchup.
No, I don't
I don't
want to
I don't
talk
know how
about the
that wasn't
Bears.
flexed out of Sunday Night Football.
Yeah, exactly. That's the biggest thing, right? Why didn't they flex that game out of there?
We've had
Um,
two primetime games this season and I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? Why?
yeah, get the hell off the TV
Yeah.
screen.
Flexes should be allowed every week of the season, not just the second half.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Monday Night Football, where I picked the Raiders. I had to eat my words there against the Lions in Detroit. The home fan was loud. The home fans, rightfully so, as the Lions get to 6-2. When's the last time the Lions have been, 6-2? They're feeling confident. Big bounce back win after the ass kicking against the Ravens. But I was feeling a little bit of hope a couple times. The Lions kept this game unnecessarily close at times with a couple really bad turnovers, right?
Yeah, they played a little sloppy. I think maybe they were playing down to their opponent here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, but I said this on our last episode, like it's a special occasion for them. They don't really ever host Monday Night Football games 5 times in
Yeah,
the past
yeah.
century. I mean, I I thought the Lions were gonna come back and win this one. I mean, the Ravens kicked their butts last week.
Yeah.
Um, so after putting up only 6 points on offense, I was expecting, 35 or something. 26 is okay, but they pulled off a win and that's what's important here. But the Raiders defense tried.
Yeah, and it easily could have been 33 if not for that fumble at the 3 yard line, right?
Yeah, that
And
was a bad spot.
credit to Max Crosby, who the Raiders defense really is no names outside of Max Crosby and Marcus Peters, and both of them stepped up, especially Max Crosby. And let me say this: so as great as the Lions have been, they're 6-2, and what's the one question mark I've said all season long? Jared Goff, right?
Mhm.
That pick six he threw is
Oh,
one of the worst throws I've ever fucking seen.
oh, it
The
was
de-
bad.
the decision to throw that ball, let alone like that was a gift, right?
Yeah, I mean, he wasn't even aiming for anyone on his team. I think it's funny. He was quoted. I didn't see the interview, but he was quoted where someone said something like, "Hey, man, you've been throwing a lot of interceptions." He's like, "Well, I've been throwing a lot of touchdowns too." Like, I'm like, fair. It's like talking to Brett Favre, like, "Hey, you got a lot of interceptions there, bud." Like, and what's your point? But he's got to be careful because those can easily turn a game. Um,
Yeah, made
and
it
I
a
mean,
2 point game. They had dominated the game. They were dominating the game, and that pick six let the Raiders right back into it. Now they won and and were able to overcome it, but they easily could have. If the Raiders had gained any momentum from that at all and got it rolling, the Raiders could have easily surprised them and won that game. But Goff, that's my big concern is you can do that against bad teams like the Raiders and still win, but you can't do that against the Seahawks or the Niners or the Eagles in the playoffs and expect to win, right?
yeah, I think that's something they need to like tighten up on. But I mean they did get Jimmy G benched, so they did something right.
Yeah. And credit to I know you want to talk about Jahmyr Gibbs playing the game of his career so far.
Absolutely. I have liked him all season. There are a couple players that I've really liked that have really broken out this season. On their he was so good. I mean, 8 touches for 35 yards the first drive, like you just knew it was going to add up throughout the night. 152 rushing yards, touchdown, 26 carries, 5 catches for 37 yards. I mean, he's just wily. Like he's just hard to nab. I mean, he was
Mhm.
making David Montgomery proud.
He looks like Alvin Kamara to me.
Yeah. Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah.
But I think the 1-2 punch when Montgomery comes back is going to be filthy.
Yeah, I agree. They need to get Montgomery back, and they wouldn't. They kept kicking field goals in the red zone. That's kind of why this game should have been a much bigger blowout than it was.
Yeah, I
The
haven't
pick
liked their
six,
red zone offense all season.
yeah, but
I've
getting
been concerned about it.
David Montgomery being healthy, he's got what 6 touchdowns. He's the red zone guy. Jahmyr Gibbs is not the red zone guy. He's the
No.
out in space break big plays guy. Montgomery's your red zone guy who they need back in a big way.
Yeah, do we know what week Montgomery's supposed to come back? Because I know the Lions are heading into a bye week this week.
Yeah,
So,
he should be back after the bye, I think.
ooh, okay. I'm excited to see how the first couple games with him back goes.
But let's talk about these Raiders. Um, Devontae Adams clearly frustrated, slams his helmet on the ground, doesn't want to say much in the post game interview. Uh,
Oh,
Jimmy
he
G,
stormed off the field before, like as soon as the clock wound down, he ran off the field. Everyone else was still out there, shaking hands, high-fiving, whatever,
yeah.
jersey exchanging, doing the interviews. He was gone.
Well, I don't blame him at all. I mean, did you see twice in this game, Devontae Adams beat his defender by a mile, and
Wide
all
open.
all Jimmy G has to do is throw it up there in bounds and give Devontae Adams a shot to get it, and that's a touchdown twice.
He was
And
overthrown by like 12 yards.
Jimmy G didn't. Jimmy G deserved to get benched. He's a backup quarterback now. He's a statue in the pocket, and he's not even accurate with the ball. He is trash. And it's a reason Josh McDaniels and Dave Ziegler got fired. It's because they got rid of Derek Carr for Jimmy fucking Garoppolo. Because Carr is inconsistent, but at his best, he's a pretty damn good quarterback. Jimmy G is trash now.
Yeah, it was a bad game. I mean, there was one really perfect pass that Devontae Adams completely dropped too. So it's
Yes,
not
yeah.
all on Jimmy, but it's interesting who the staff has prioritized in that spat. I mean, one of them is benched and the other one isn't. So
Yeah, and Jimmy G should be benched. And the season, the Raiders are going nowhere, right? They fall to 3-5. They're not a playoff team. So let's get the rookie in there and see what he can do. How surprised were you to see GM, head coach, and offensive coordinator all fired after this loss?
I mean, we've been talking shit about them for a few weeks, so I'm
Yeah,
not. I mean, it seems it's week 8. It's halfway through the season almost. Like normally teams just, hold out a couple weeks longer, but if you know what you want to do it. If you think it's gonna have an effect on the team and create some room for improvement, I mean,
yeah.
get the bad eggs out of there.
Real quick, the same thing happened to Josh McDaniels in Denver. Josh McDaniels was hired. He lasted 1.5 seasons and got fired mid season. Same
Yeah,
thing
well,
happened here in Vegas. He is a trash head coach in NFL. I hope you learn your lesson. Never hire Josh McDaniels to be your head coach again. He's an excellent offensive coordinator under Bill Belichick. Outside of that, Josh McDaniels sucks. He doesn't know how to run an offense, let alone run a team, and he sucks at roster evaluation, talent evaluation. Like he's trash, man. Don't hire Josh McDaniels.
yeah, I'm curious what he does from here, like who he ends up working for, where he ends up working, because it'll be interesting to see if he gets another head coach job or if he ends up, being a ball boy or something. Um, but if you have
Yeah.
that much talent on your team and you're not able to do anything with it, I mean, you deserve to be fired.
Yeah, and I think it's BS that they wouldn't trade Devontae Adams before the deadline, right?
Yeah, if
You know
your
you're
receiver
a bad
wants to
team.
go somewhere else, don't force him to stay on your team unhappily when he's
Yeah,
worth a shitload of money. That's fucking
feel
idiotic.
bad. Feel bad for Devontae, and the reason he went there in the first place was to play with Derek Carr, not Jimmy G.
Yeah, I'd be kind of pissy about that too.
Yeah. All right, let's wrap it up with this. Week 9, Thursday night football. 3-4 Titans with Will Levis at the 4-3 Steelers with it. It looks like it's going to be Kenny Pickett. Steelers tied for second place in the AFC North with the Browns and the Bengals. So every win is important in that tough, hard fought division. Steelers are at home where they just lost to the Jags, so they need to take care of home field. Can they bring Will Levis back down to earth on Thursday night?
Man, that's going to be one of those games where we see the true colors of both teams. I
Yeah.
mean, Will Levis had a hot start, one of the best ones in NFL history for a rookie. Um, I think he keeps his streak going.
Will Levis?
Yeah, I think the Titans can pull this
Ooh,
one off.
we're going to disagree on this one. I like
Ooh, starting early. Okay.
it. So
I
you're
mean, I
picking
only
the
got 4 games
Titans?
wrong this week, so I'm feeling pretty full of myself. So
Yeah, and you got a 3 game lead on me, so I love it. I need to catch up.
you keep saying that. We were down to 1 game for a second there. But I think
Yeah,
it's going to be a close game. I think it'll probably be a low scoring game again for the Titans. I can see it being, you know, 18-16 kind of thing, maybe
so you're picking the
21
Titans to
17.
win?
What?
You're picking the Titans to win?
I'm going to pick the Titans to win.
Wow.
I'm
Good.
half asleep, so we'll see if it pays off.
Well, I need this dub, and I'm all right. You're forcing me to do it, so I'm gonna go ahead and do it. I'm gonna guarantee this one.
Oh God, Alex, that worked out so well. You're
Guarantee
what, 1 for 3 on your guarantees so far this season?
of the week. Steelers over the Titans, and I'm gonna say this on top of it. So write it in your notes.
I am.
Will Levis is gonna have more turnovers than touchdowns.
Okay.
It's gonna be the rookie like welcome to the NFL moment in Pittsburgh on prime time. Uh, I mean, Kenny Pickett doesn't really do anything for me, but I think the Steelers defense is going to eat against the Titans offense. And the Titans might not score more. I don't think the Titans score more than. I don't think they score 17. I think they score less than 17.
Okay, we'll see.
All
All right. Well, good
right.
episode as always.
Yeah, good shit as always. Appreciate all the support. Don't forget to like, subscribe, leave a comment. Stay tuned. We might have a major interview coming up here very soon. So stay tuned for that. Good shit as always, Amanda. Have a great week, guys, and peace out.